My friends, do you know what's funny? Everyone wants success, but nobody wants to get out of bed. We all say, I'll start tomorrow, but somehow tomorrow never comes. And even when it does, we're too tired to greet it. Let me tell you something powerful today. Your bed is not your enemy, your excuses are. Because the biggest thief of your dreams doesn't live outside you, it lives inside you. It's that soft voice whispering, 5 more minutes. But what if I told you that 5 minutes is all it takes to change your life? Today, I want you to wake up, not just from sleep, but from that comfort zone that's quietly killing your potential. Because, my friends, if you don't wake up for your dreams will fall asleep forever. You see, my friends, there's a big difference between taking rest and being lazy. Rest is sacred. It's necessary. It's like recharging your inner battery so you can rise again stronger. Even nature rests. The sun sets, the waves pause, and trees stand still through the night. Rest is divine. But laziness is different. Laziness is when you have energy, but you choose not to use it. When you have time, but you keep wasting it. When you have potential, but you keep postponing it. Laziness doesn't come from tiredness. It comes from resistance. Resistance to effort. Resistance to discomfort. Resistance to change. You don't feel lazy because you're weak. You feel lazy because your mind has convinced you that doing nothing is safer than failing. It tells you, don't start now, it's not the right time. But my friends, when will it ever be the right time? The perfect moment never comes. We create it. Think about this. Even a seed buried in the soil must push through darkness before it sees the light. It resists the comfort of the soil, struggles upward, and finally breaks through to become a tree. That's effort. That's life. But most people stay buried under their excuses, calling it rest, when it's really avoidance. Laziness quietly steals your potential. It whispers, relax, you've got time. But every time you listen, you lose a piece of your tomorrow. It gives you comfort now, but guilt later. And what's worse, it doesn't show its damage immediately. You don't wake up one day and see lazy written on your face, but slowly your dreams fade, your energy drops, your confidence slips. You start to live half awake, comfortable, but unfulfilled. Rest is what your body needs after effort. Laziness is what your mind creates to avoid effort. The difference is intention. Rest says, I'll pause to recover. Laziness says, I'll pause to escape. And that's where most people fall, in that thin line between pausing and quitting. So the next time you feel lazy, ask yourself, am I tired or am I avoiding something uncomfortable? If you're tired, rest. If you're avoiding, move. Because every time you choose to act, when you don't feel like it, you weaken that resistance a little more. You train your brain to obey your goals, not your moods. Remember, it's easy to sleep through your potential, but when you wake up, it's painful to see how much time you've lost. Don't let laziness disguise itself as self-care. True rest refuels you, laziness robs you. One rebuilds your strength, the other slowly destroys your will. Wake up, move. Even a small action is better than another excuse. Because once you understand this truth, that laziness isn't rest, it's resistance, you'll stop waiting to feel ready and start creating the energy you need to live the life you're capable of. It's warm, familiar, safe. And that's exactly the problem. The comfort zone feels like home, but it slowly becomes a cage. It's where dreams go to sleep and where potential quietly dies. We all love comfort, the predictable routine, the familiar faces, the habits that don't challenge us. But growth doesn't happen where we feel cozy, it happens where we feel uncomfortable. Think about it. The butterfly cannot remain a caterpillar forever. The cocoon feels secure, but if it never breaks free, it never flies. The same thing happens to us. The moment we step outside our comfort zone, life begins to stretch us. It tests us, molds us, and shapes us into who we're meant to become. But as long as we stay in comfort, we stay the same. The truth is, most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they refuse to be uncomfortable. They don't want to risk embarrassment, rejection, or effort. They want the reward without the resistance, the success without the struggle. But every great person you admire, every success story was born in discomfort. Success never blooms in safety. When you stay too long in comfort, you begin to shrink without realizing it. Your goals get smaller, your drive gets weaker, and your excuses get louder. You start to say, "I'm fine where I am," even when deep down, you know you're not. Because comfort numbs you, it gives you the illusion of peace while quietly stealing your purpose. It's like sitting in lukewarm water, not too cold to shock you, not hot enough to move you, just enough to keep you still. And the world outside your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. That's where opportunities live, where growth waits, where the real version of you is hiding. Every time you step out, even just a little, you expand. You learn something new about yourself. You find strength you didn't know you had. The discomfort you fear today becomes the confidence you'll carry tomorrow. Let me tell you something. Life will never reward you for what you intended to do, only for what you actually did. An action rarely feels comfortable at first. The gym doesn't feel good on day one. The early morning alarm doesn't sound pleasant. Speaking your truth, chasing your dream, starting something new, it all feels awkward, painful, and uncertain. But if you push through that discomfort, it becomes your new comfort. You level up. Your comfort zone is not evil, it's just temporary. It's the place you visit to recover, not to live. You rest there, reflect there, but you don't grow there. Because the moment you start settling in, life starts slowing down. And before you know it, your best years slip away, not because you failed, but because you never even tried. So, my friend, the next time you feel afraid to step out, remind yourself that fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal that you're growing. The shaking hands, the racing heart, the self-doubt, they're proof you're doing something brave. The pain of growth lasts for a moment, the pain of comfort lasts a lifetime. Don't let the comfort zone trick you into believing you're safe. Safety without growth is stagnation. And stagnation is silent decay. If you truly want to live, not just exist, you must walk into the unknown, stumble, fall, rise again, and keep walking. Because the truth is, your greatest life is waiting for you just one step beyond your comfort zone. We often sit and wait for that spark of inspiration to strike us, as if one magical morning we'll wake up filled with unstoppable energy, ready to chase our dreams. But that day rarely comes. Motivation is not the beginning of the journey. It's the result of movement. When you move, motivation follows. When you sit still, it fades. Most people think they need to feel ready before they start, ready to work out, ready to study, ready to build that business, ready to change their life. But here's the truth, you will never feel completely ready. The mind will always find reasons to delay. I'm too tired. It's not the right time. I'll start next week. These are not reasons. They're fears wearing the mask of logic. If you keep waiting for motivation to knock on your door, you'll be waiting for a lifetime. Action is the spark that lights motivation. The moment you start, even when you don't feel like it, something inside you changes. You gain momentum. Think about pushing a heavy car. The hardest part is the first push when it's still. But once it moves, even a small effort keeps it rolling. Life is like that. The beginning is hard. The middle is easier. The end feels natural. But nothing moves until you do. Every time you take action, your brain releases a small sense of achievement. That feeling of, I did something. That tiny win fuels your next step, and suddenly the very action you were avoiding becomes addictive. You begin to crave progress more than you craved comfort. That's when motivation truly awakens. Not before action, but because of it. The secret is to start small. Don't wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect conditions. Perfection is procrastination in disguise. Take one small step, even if it's clumsy. Write one line, make one call, take one walk, study one page. Because once you begin, the energy you were waiting for begins to flow through you. The act of doing gives birth to the desire to do more. Let me tell you something deeper. The mind is designed to protect you from discomfort. It always wants to conserve energy, to take the easy path, to avoid risk. That's why you'll never feel like starting something hard. The mind will resist. But if you move your body, if you act despite the thought, the body tells the brain, we're doing this. The brain then adjusts, creating motivation after action. You don't think your way into new behavior, you act your way into new thinking. Even in spiritual life, this truth exists. You don't wait to feel devotion to start praying. You start praying and devotion arises. You don't wait to feel grateful before you count your blessings. You count them and gratitude grows. The action comes first, the feeling follows. And here's the beauty. When you realize this, you stop being a slave to your moods. You stop saying, I'll do it when I feel like it. Because if you only act when you feel good, you'll achieve very little. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who are always motivated. They're the ones who show up even when they're not. That's what builds strength, character, and consistency. You see, waiting for motivation is like waiting for the tide to turn while your ship is still tied to the dock. You must untie the ropes and start sailing. Only then does the wind start to favor you. The movement attracts momentum, the universe meets you halfway, but only when you take the first step. So the next time your mind says, I don't feel like it, smile and say, that's okay, I'll start anyway. Because the act of starting, even when you're not ready, is an act of courage. It's a declaration that your goals are stronger than your excuses. And once you begin, something powerful happens. You don't need motivation anymore. You become it. Remember, motion creates emotion. You don't wait for energy, you create it. You don't wait for inspiration, you spark it. Motivation is not a gift given to the lucky ones. It's a reward given to the doers. The secret isn't to find the drive, it's to start moving and let the drive find you. Inspiration is beautiful. It's that sudden spark, that feeling of fire in your chest, that rush that makes you believe you can conquer the world. But inspiration is also fragile. It comes when it wants and it leaves when it pleases. You can't depend on it. It's like the wind. It may lift you for a moment, but if you rely on it too long, you'll eventually fall when it disappears. Discipline, on the other hand, is not exciting. It's not glamorous. It's quiet, steady, sometimes even boring. but it's what carries you when inspiration is gone. So many people start their journey when they feel inspired. They set big goals, make promises, dream loudly, and for a few days, they're unstoppable. But then comes the day when they wake up tired, unmotivated, unsure. That's when most people stop. Not because they can't, but because they only learn to act when they feel like it. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline doesn't ask, do you feel like it? It simply says, do it anyway. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your results. It's what turns intentions into reality. Anyone can start, but very few continue. Why? Because continuing is not exciting. Continuing means doing the work when no one is watching. It means showing up when it's raining, when it's boring, when it's hard, when you're tired, when it feels like nothing is working. That's when the difference is made, not on the good days, but on the hard ones. Discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't post quotes or make grand speeches. It simply repeats the same small action over and over again until success becomes inevitable. Think of water dripping on stone. It doesn't break the rock through force, it breaks it through consistency. That's discipline. Quiet, patient, and unstoppable. Inspiration gives you a reason to start, but discipline gives you the power to finish. The world is full of inspired people who never finish what they begin. Inspiration writes the first chapter, discipline writes the book. Inspiration joins the gym, discipline builds the body. Inspiration starts the business, discipline keeps it alive. Inspiration falls in love, discipline keeps the relationship strong. The truth is, discipline is love in action. Love for your dreams, your goals, your future self. Because when you're disciplined, you're saying to yourself, I respect my potential enough to keep going, even when I don't feel like it. And that's rare in a world that worships comfort. Every great achiever in history has been disciplined. They didn't rely on feeling ready. They built routines, habits, systems. They didn't wait for the right mood. They created structure that carried them through every mood. The painter who paints every morning, even when the canvas looks dull. The athlete who trains when their body aches. The writer who writes even when the words don't come easily. These people are not always inspired. They are disciplined. And something magical happens when you practice discipline long enough. You start to trust yourself. You stop making promises you can't keep. You start believing your own words. You begin to feel proud, not because of what you achieved, but because of who you became. Discipline shapes character. It builds self